friends! Throughout this series, we've been looking at one chapter in the Bible, Luke 15. This chapter recounts a series of parables Jesus once told about things that were lost and then found. Each story communicates a different and important truth. Jesus told these stories to the Pharisees, religious leaders who had become arrogant, self-righteous, and dismissive of people who they believed were sinful. Jesus told this series of stories to help the Pharisees see how wrong they were about themselves, others, and God. First, Jesus told a story about a lost sheep to show the Pharisees that God isn't angry or judgmental when we wander away. Instead, God finds us and carries us lovingly back to safety. Next, Jesus told a story about a woman who lost her coin to show the Pharisees that God doesn't give up on us when we wander away. Instead, God values us and keeps looking for us. After that, Jesus told a story about a son who selfishly left his family and squandered his money, but was welcomed home again by his father anyway. We read most of that story last week, but we're not quite finished with it yet. To quickly recap, a father had two sons, the younger of which asked for his share of the inheritance early so that he could live his own life. Rude. He went off and spent all the money and hit some really hard times. He decided to return home and ask his father if he could at least be a servant in his house. But his father rejoiced at his return and welcomed him back as family. Just like this father, Jesus always welcomes us home, no matter how far we wander. But Jesus' goal in telling these stories wasn't only to help the Pharisees be more compassionate about lost people. He needed them to see that they were actually the lost ones. Here's the rest of the story. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. "Your brother has come," he replied, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." The older brother became angry and refused to go in, so his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never even gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him?" "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." The older brother was bitter. He felt like he'd earned his father's love and that his rebellious and untrustworthy little brother didn't deserve it. I don't think the father in this story asked his oldest son to come into dinner because he didn't notice his bad attitude. I think he asked because he saw how bitter his son was becoming. By asking his son to join the party, the father confronted and exposed his son's bitterness and gave him a chance to choose a different path. Just like the Pharisees, the older brother believed he was doing everything right, and on the outside, it looked that way. But on the inside, the older brother was judgmental, bitter, angry, and selfish. Jesus knew the Pharisees would think of the younger brother in this story as the lost son, but Jesus needed them to see that both brothers were actually lost in different ways. Then the story ends. Jesus never tells us if the older brother decided to join his father's party or if he stayed outside and threw himself a pity party. All we know is he was invited. That's the point. Jesus didn't give the Pharisees an ending because the story was an invitation. With this series of stories, Jesus was asking, "Pharisees, what will you do? Will you stay outside sulking or will you join the party?" Just like the father in this story, Jesus exposed the Pharisees' bitterness and then gave them the chance to choose a different path. This is one of my favorite stories because at different points in my life, I felt like both of these brothers. I've been lost in arrogance and self-righteousness like the older brother, and I've felt really far from God like the younger brother. Maybe there's a brother you really identify with right now. No matter what kind of lost you may be, Jesus notices you, Jesus values you, Jesus is ready to welcome you back, and Jesus always invites you to the party. But it is up to you to take him up on the invitation. Bye, friends.